Hello,
Chapter
everyone.
1.
I'm John Lazarus.
Play Call.
I'd like to welcome you to the
Meet
first
me
of
in
D&D
Wuhan.
Publishing's series of audiobook
Those were
audio
the words that
commentaries.
lifted me out of my
You know,
slumber
films have
that
been
early
doing this
Friday
for
morning.
decades, but for some reason,
I didn't
no
need to
publishers
ask.
that I
Those
know
dulcet
have ever tried
tones
to
could
do
only
audio
have come from the
commentaries
mouth of a
audiobooks.
certain European
So we're in
seductress,
uncharted territory here, but
the
that
petite,
just makes
ever-sprightly
this journey all the more exciting.
Fran Beauchamp.
So welcome
I
listeners to
pressed
the
the
audio
phone to my
commentary
ear
of
and
Blake
tried my
Colby's
best to
Bloodshot,
respond to
which is
her
the first book put
primordial
on the
mating
D&D
call.
label.
How
This
you
was actually
doing?
when we were called HarperCollins
me.
Publishing, a name we took from
looked
my
for
two
you
business partners who
years.
started the label
I
with
thought
me.
you'd run away to Paris.
Because of certain copyright
Oh,
issues,
no,
we had
I found
to
a
change
much
the
more
name.
romantic place.
We landed on Dragon Eagle
For
Publishing
starters,
because
it doesn't
at the
smell
time
like
it was
the
a
piss of
joint venture
Japanese
with some
tourists here.
Chinese investors, so we
The
wanted
rapier
something
wit
to
had not
symbolize
diminished
America and
with
China.
age.
Once they pulled out due to
China,
failing book
I
sales
said,
and
just like
disagreements
we
about
always
our
talked
company's
about.
COVID policies, we
Where are
simplified
you
the name
exactly?
to D&E, which it turned out was the
I'll
final
text you
key
the
to getting
address of my
people to
hotel.
taking
You'd
our
love it
company
here.
more seriously.
It's hot. The
Now,
food's
you might be
great.
wondering, as a
Plus,
very
you can do your
prolific
banking on a
author
Sunday.
who had
There's a
256
flight
books
leaving
to his
tonight
name
at
by
7.
2016 when this
There are
was
2
published,
layovers through Dallas and
why
Pyongyang.
wouldn't I
Tickets start
first
at
publish one of my
$3,500.
novels? Well,
Dallas.
then I was
Well,
going
thank you.
through a
I
lot
thought
of
to
burnout
myself.
by this time, and even though we
sat
hadn't
up in
actually
bed and
filed
closed
for a
my
business
eyes.
license,
Fran
putting
Beauchamp.
together the company took up
I
a lot
felt
of
the
my
imagery
time, and I
pulsing
didn't
through
really
my
have any
temples.
new work that was
The
ready to be
smooth olive
published
skin.
when this came out.
That
But
tropical
what really
private
sealed
island.
the deal was when I met
one
Blake
visible
Colby
from our
at a
Holiday
writers'
Inn Super
convention in
Saver suite.
Saratoga.
That vagina.
As you'll
White
note in
sand
the
beaches,
preface, this was the
shade
fourth
from
of
palm
5
trees,
Cable Anderkin novels
2
that were
bellboys
written,
knife fighting along
and
the
it's the
docks.
only one that ever saw the light of
ruffled
day.
bed sheets,
Now, this seems a little
3-legged dog,
confusing, so
Diet
explain.
Sprite, more vagina,
Colby really
a
stood
bottle
out
of
to me
lube
when I
leaking
first
into a
met
copy
him,
of
and
Gideon's
not just
Bible.
because he was 6'8" and
You know, I'd
towered
love
over
to,
the rest
friend,
of the crowd
but
at the convention.
It's complicated.
And he actually did play
Wuhan.
in the NBA.
Do I
as the
really need to
preface
say
says,
any more to
but
convince
as far
you?
as I can tell, he had a very
She was right.
remarkable career.
Memories started pouring in.
certainly had never
13
heard
years
of
ago,
him.
we spent 4
He played
unforgettable
only 2
days
years
together
and
in
mostly
Aruba.
rode the bench. And
Two
his
lonely stars
depression over
causing
not getting
paths in
good
the
minutes
cosmos.
led him to the booze that would give
I
him
still
his
thought
liver
of her
injury
fondly
that
every
ended
time I
his
stayed
playing
at,
for good.
walked past, or saw
In
commercials
any case,
for
it wasn't
hotels.
the towering height that stood out to me.
Just
but
imagine,
his
she
work.
continued, you and me.
Now, detective novels are
China.
often a
The
dime a
Hong Kong of
dozen,
the
and it's
East.
very hard to stand
Pearl
out
of
in a
the Cloud.
crowd, even when you're
Sin City.
6'8".
The big hot
But when I
and
read
steamy.
those first few pages
Fucktown.
of Bloodshot,
Gateway
I
to the
knew that
ass.
was exactly the thing
Jesus.
our label needed.
Yeah.
You know, it was Philip
Sounds like one
Marlowe
hell
from
of
the
a
modern
tourism
era.
board.
Tough, hyper-violent,
Took a
but
sip of water
with a
to
great
calm my
heart and a
nerves.
healthy dose of basketball,
That covers
which
the
I find
nights.
is missing from too many
But that still leaves our
memoirs.
days free, though.
Now, why exactly did
Well,
I only
we can do
publish
what
the
everyone else
fourth book
here
in the
does.
series? Well,
What's
it was
that?
a messy legal battle that
Mostly
wouldn't
wander around
I wouldn't
watching
really like
people
to
fight
get
with
into,
traffic cops.
but, you know, this audio commentary
sounds
will eventually
tempting,
need to be
but
7 hours long, so
I hesitated.
gotta fill
I
the ear
looked
with
over at
something.
the picture on my nightstand.
Anyway, after
Guilt
the
began to
meeting in
creep up my
Saratoga,
spine.
I was very excited
Then
to
I turned
get
over the
Cable
pamphlet to
Anderkin
feed
books
starving
on the
children I
label.
knew I was going to
I
ignore.
reached out to Colby's agent.
But the guilt remained as my
the
eyes
only
reached farther
problem
back
was
to the
he was
photo
a
of my
basketball
current
agent,
girlfriend,
so he didn't
propped
really know
farther
much about
along the
publishing.
nightstand.
For example, he didn't realize writers only
just
get
can't.
about a
I'm seeing
4%
someone
royalty
now.
for each book sold.
You mean the
So there were really
9/11
some
window?
unnecessary delays.
I wasn't
which
sure
I
how
think
she could have
threw
known.
Colby for a loop.
The
See,
guilty
he wasn't really
tingling worsened.
interested in
I
money.
drank some more water.
I mean, even though his basketball career was short, he did some
She doesn't
ads
have
for
to know.
Land
Make
Lakes
something
because
up.
of his name,
People
and he
come to
was
Wuhan on business
financially
all the
fairly
time.
well off.
She
It was
was
all
really
about the
reaching
art
with that
for
one.
him.
But
But
it's
his
since the
agent was
desperation
asking
in
for a
her
lot
voice.
more than me or the rest of the
Nobody would
company
ever
was willing
buy
to
that.
pay at the time.
I tried to think of excuses.
Colby wasn't getting
By
any
time,
deals
I
with other
started packing up
publishers,
phlegm
so
into the small trash can
we
near my
thought
bed.
we'd just need to wait it out for about
then
a
decided
month
to
or
go
so,
on the
and the agent
offensive.
would cave.
Is there something wrong,
Unfortunately, these
Fran?
pressures about not being seen as
Of
a
course not.
serious
It's
author
just that
only made
me
Colby's
staying in a
drinking
hotel and all,
problem worse.
I naturally thought of you.
And we at the label were eager
The
to
tension
get the
throughout
ball
my body
rolling
worsened.
too.
I started
Not
chugging
editing
any
so
water
much.
I could
I'd already
find to
made
calm
a decent
myself
amount
down.
of money selling books littered with
It's just,
spelling errors.
I haven't
But
seen
we
you in
needed
13
artwork.
years, right?
We needed to start a marketing
Almost
campaign
14.
and so on. Well,
A lot can
eventually,
happen in
as
14
often
years.
happens in this business,
People might switch
we had to
jobs
break into
or
his
move to a
apartment to
different
steal
house,
his
crazy as that
manuscripts.
sounds.
At least if we could have
I
the
know.
whole thing, our
I
team
looked for
could
you
start
for a long time.
brainstorming cover
I
ideas.
know, she
We
repeated.
could send out some arcs for blog reviews.
A great
see if we could
silence
drum
board
some
down
buzz
upon
from
us.
the authors we
Thought
knew.
I'd hack up some more
I
phlegm
only
to
had
break
about
the
a
icy
3-chapter
chill, but my throat was
excerpt
all
and the
cleared
novel
out.
synopsis to know,
Instead of
Colby
just
had great
tiptoeing
talent,
around it,
but
I
it wasn't
decided to take
enough
the ball
to
straight down the
do
lane
any of the
and
other
see if I
stuff.
could draw a charge.
Anyway, because of priors
Did I
I
mention
had, I
I'm
wasn't
dating
able
a
to
9/11
go get the
widow?
books myself, so I had to get
actually
my
mentioned
second
that.
wife's cousin to help break into his house.
It's not like I can just...
The easy
Of
part
course
was
you
that
can.
Colby's drinking was so bad, he
silence
was
returned.
basically always blackout
I
drunk.
thought
by
I'd let her
9
bring
p.m.
the ball
anyway.
up the court this time.
But we
played
didn't
this
know where
game of
any of the
cat and mouse
manuscripts
for 5
were,
minutes.
or if
She
you know,
finally
Colby had them
relented.
printed, or if they were stored on
Do you
some
remember when we
you know,
met?
encrypted drive.
I did.
I only
met
know this
coming
story
off some of the
secondhand
biggest
because I was
disasters of
there,
our
but
lives.
apparently my second wife's cousin got
parents had
chased away
recently
by a
passed in a
neighbor who had
climbing
seen him
accident in
smashing
the
the garage
Apennines.
windows.
I had just missed 2
Because it
free
only
throws
had
that
enough
cost
time to
our
grab a
team an
handful of
seed.
USB sticks that were on a
I
workspace
suppose
in
when
an
our
office
eyes met
near the
across the
garage.
room of that party, we could sense
Well,
it.
luckily none of them were
Through the lines
encrypted,
of
but very
tears
few had
streaming down
anything
her
to do with
face, I could
Colby's
sense the
writing.
great
3
sadness.
or 4 were just sex tapes.
Of course,
and
I
the other
never
one was
put much
just
credence in the
videos of
idea
his
that
basketball
eyes are the
highlights.
windows to the
But
soul.
there was one book stored on one of them.
For starters,
almost
most
hidden,
scientists
it
will
would
tell you
seem,
souls can't
amidst
even
a
be
roll
measured.
of photos of his trip to Branson,
Plus, all
Missouri.
the time I've spent with
And
hardened
that was the
criminals,
book that
I've
turned out
learned
to be
the eyes
Bloodshot.
can be used just as
Now,
easily
the problem
to
was
deceive.
Bloodshot was the 4th book
Like
in a
when you got
5-book
gun on
series.
a guy and he looks
Thankfully, from the
behind you
way
and
the book
yells,
turned
but when you
out,
turn around, there's
each
nothing
story
really
is
there, and he's just
standalone
pretending,
with
and
a
now he's
few
running
connecting
away.
threads, but they weren't essential
Fran
to
had a
understand
friend
the
at
plot or
Holiday
the
and
themes of the
Corporate who
book.
had gotten us a great package
None of
deal
this would have
with
mattered
Aruba.
anyway if Colby and his agent
I
would
ran
have
off
simply
with her
taken
for
the
4
deal when we
days.
asked.
We made love. We talked.
And then,
We
as
shared long
everyone
walks
knows,
along the
tragedy
seaside.
struck about 2 weeks
We got
after we
first
got the
aid
stolen
certifications.
book. One
We
night
became
when he was
proficient
alone,
in
Colby
Mandarin.
drowned in his
We finished
hot
the
tub
game of
after
Risk.
passing out from a mixture of alcohol and ketamine.
Duh, I finally said.
His agent did find his
laughed.
body.
A lot.
I should
But
say,
then her
didn't
tone
find his
changed.
body until about 8 days after it had
The pain
happened.
we shared
And
will always be a part
as
of
he
us.
was known to go on benders and
The
not take
anguish
calls
that
or
brought us
emails
to
from
embrace
anyone.
will never
I'm
leave
not
us.
sure if this is like an
The
urban
despair
legend or
you
something.
shot inside me,
But they
and
said he
sometimes
looked
in
like
and
some
around my
kind
mouth.
of amphibian
will
when they
forever
found him,
remain.
and it skid just
So we
shed
can
right
move
off
on,
his
we can
body.
rebuild it. What makes us human?
Obviously, at the time, it was a
She
huge
paused,
tragedy.
and then
Tragedy,
continued.
we thought,
For you,
silver
maybe.
lining, we can finally
But I've
get
been running
access
for a
to all
long
of
time.
5 books, and his
I
death
thought
might
the
even boost
pieces
sales
would
a
be
bit.
there for me to pick up once
But
I
as
found
with
the
many
right
things in
place.
life, fate kind of
But I
butt
don't
fucked
think
us.
I ever will.
Colby had it written in his will
For
that
some
he
reason, it
hadn't
didn't
wanted
seem like
any
she
of
was
his books
flirting
published
anymore.
posthumously.
Forget I called.
But once we contacted the
I wanna
agent,
help
we
you.
actually both
Don't
agreed it
worry,
would be
this
better
didn't turn
if
into
the
that
books
kind
got
of call.
published.
I guess I just wanted to hear your voice.
The will was written
She
a few
hung
years
up.
earlier,
It
and
was
most
now
likely
approaching
before
midday.
Colby had a chance to edit his books
Put on my
carefully
clothes
or
and headed for
polish
work.
them. So at the time, it probably made sense to put in his will that he wouldn't want to publish. But by 2016, Colby had approached me about getting his books published. So, his dying wishes were clearly out of date.